Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. I will watch as a few comments come on and see people coming in live. Say hello to us if you can hear me and you can see me. It is Niall here, standing in for Alex this week on Findmypast Fridays Live. I see William. Hello, William, regular viewer. How are you? Hopefully you can hear me. If you can hear me, give me the thumbs up and I'll get going. You're joining us, of course, on VE Day today, a very special day in the UK and actually across the world. It's Victory in Europe Day, and it's really significant this year, of course, because it's the 75th anniversary. So we're going to do something a little bit different this week for Findmypast Fridays Live. I can see the comments starting to come in. That's great. Everyone can hear me. Hi, Audrey. Hi, Shirley. And Ellie, who's in the comments, my colleague Ellie is looking after the comments today. She assures me you can all hear me, so that's great stuff. I will get going. So as I said, yeah, it's VE Day today, a very special day for everyone in the UK and across Europe and the world. Victory in Europe Day, of course, marked the end of the Second World War in Europe, and it happened on this day 75 years ago. So it's a really special time to remember everyone who was involved in the Second World War. And just the time in general, I'm sure, because it's quite living memory for a lot of people. You'll either, if you don't have memory of it yourself, you'll probably have heard family stories about VE Day. And to mark VE Day, we've launched a very special collection of records, well, actually photographs and records. It's the Findmypast photo collection, Snapshots in Time, and I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit today, as well as another major record release that we've released today. So let's get going. So the Findmypast photo collection, what exactly is this very special collection? Well, it's thousands of hand-picked photographs that and a lot of them have never before been published online. We worked with Mirrorpics and Reach PLC, which are publishers in the UK, along with Library and Archives Canada, to get this collection together and get it online. It's at the moment, it covers mainly World War II wartime, but there are other photographs in there as well, and I'll take you through some of those today. It covers things like the armed forces and time in general, things like evacuation in Britain, life events, which would be births, marriages, and deaths around the time, but also before the war. School photographs, sports photographs, work photographs, and home front in World War II. So they're all the different categories in the photo collection that you can actually search by. And actually, when you go in to search the photo collection, you can filter each collection by those categories and focus in on any of them. The big to say about this collection, though, today, however, is that it's free, which is fantastic, obviously. So it's free until next week. So even if you don't have a Findmypast subscription, make sure you go in and have a look at the photographs. There are really some fantastic photographs in there, really captivating images. So it's really important to go in, have a look at them. Like I say, even if you don't have a Findmypast subscription, it's free until next week. So you can go in there. The URL there is on screen and you can access it that way. We've also got links all over our website at the moment. So if you go onto the blog or if you're on your dashboard on Findmypast, you'll see a link through the photo collection as well. But sure, what you really want to do is see some of the amazing photographs that are in this photo collection. So here's just a really quick taster today is what I'm going to give you of them. Military photographs. You can see here the day landings in Dunkirk in June 1944. A really kind of a captivating image there of troops helping someone onto the beach. And then I suppose the lighter side of the military, a mascot. There's loads of mascots, dogs, cats, and in this case a goat in the photo collection as well. And obviously we all love our pets, we all love animals, so it's really interesting there as well. But as I mentioned, it's not just military. So the home front and what was going on in the time of war. So as we know, millions of women and children were evacuated when war was declared. And here's some of the images in the collection from there. So you can see on the left-hand side, you've got toddlers who were evacuated to Kent. They're lining up for their foot inspection to make sure they're nice and clean. And they found the funny side of that. And then on the right-hand side was actually just before war was declared. They saw it coming and they were practicing evacuation exercises. So you've got the air wardens and the children practicing what would happen in cases of evacuation. You've also got other activities that were going on in the home front at the time. So the Women's Land Army, who are obviously very prevalent during the Second World War in Britain, they're working away in the Forestry Commission section. Obviously a very snowy day that was. And then on the right hand side you have an air raid warden in Liverpool. You can see him out. He has his gas in hand and his bell. He's ready to go should the worst happen. And again, that was just before war was declared. That was on December 1939. So, work and life events. As I mentioned, it's not just wartime. It's not just World War II that's in here. There's all sorts of things that you can find. So you can see on the left-hand side there, that is something that you wouldn't see today, of course. So you certainly wouldn't see of it today. The bank of skulls and treads being made. This was in a factory in Portadown in County Armagh. And then on the right-hand side, you can see a traditional Indian wedding. And these were for people who were from Finchley, and this was in May 1959. So the collection also stretches, just to say that the coverage of the collection stretches right back from the beginning of photography, really, like the early 1900s, and then right up to the present day. So there's all sorts of things that you can find in there, and that photograph is from 1959. Just on the subject of brides and weddings, I suppose I should mention there's a great new blog that we've published today. If you want to head to our blog, Ellie, if you can hear me and you want to pop it in the comments, it's on GI brides, and one of our in-house experts, Mary McKee, wrote this blog, and it's really interesting look at the war brides and how many British women married American soldiers at the time during the Second World War. So that's an interesting one to look at as well. So what else is in here in the photo collection? Sports and schools. So again, if you're an avid sports fan, you've got Cardiff City Football Club from 1979, and I'm sure you'll be able to find many other football teams in there as well, back through the years. And the really good thing about the photo collection is a lot of the names will be transcribed, so it's not just browsing through photographs. You can actually search for a name, and you know, by chance, you might as well chance it and see a family member in there. But it comes back. And on a contrast to the sports team in 1979, on the right-hand side is a school of children way in 1916. I'm not sure any of them look too happy to be having their photograph taken, but it is a really special photograph, and that is from Manchester in 1916. So as well as the photograph collection, which once again, I'll remind you, that is free up until next week. So do go and check it out. It's free. Go in there and search through all the amazing photographs. But as well as the photograph collection, we've also released a World War II Allies collection. And what we've done is we've basically created a one-stop shop for World War II research. So we've handpicked over 15 million, actually on this count I think it was around 16 million military photographs, and we poured them all into this one big collection. So it's really the go-to place now if you want to look for Second World War ancestors. The type of records that you're going to find in there are listed here on screen. So you've got service records. Of course, most of us, a lot of people will know that set in the UK, Second World War service records are still with the Ministry of Defence. But there are certain service records, different regiments and things that we do have that are in there. Draft registrations, particularly for the United States, enlistment records, prisoner of war records, casualty lists, cemetery indexes for war veterans, and rolls of honor as well. So this is really like, I suppose, your first stop when you're thinking of World War II research, the first place you will look. Instead of what we had before was all these different record sets spread across Findmypast, and they are still on there separately. However, now you can just search them all from one place, making it really handy. The collection covers records from Britain, from the United States, and from Canada as well. And that new collection is by going on to A to Z of records and just starting to type in the name of the collection. So if you type in Allies, it'll pop up and you can access the search from there and go and search. I've just included a couple of records that I've pulled from the collection today. On the bottom, you've got a prisoner of war. You can see that Peter Miss Clark was taken prisoner of war. You can see that I'm no expert on Asian writing, but I would imagine this is probably Chinese war camp. But you get his father's name, and you also get his address on there as well. So he's from Broadwood Kelly in Norton. And then above him, this is a photograph that I pulled from the collection as well, and it is a member of the Navy. I think I found this in the Fate of the Fallen collection that is held in there, and basically that's all more photographs actually of servicemen. So again, everyone loves to find a photograph of their ancestors, so you can look in the World War II Allied collection photos as well. So going back to the photograph collection, I thought it would be worthwhile to maybe spend a little bit of time looking at VE Day photographs, because obviously it's a very special day. We're all remembering 75 years ago, victory was declared, the war was over in Europe, so it's a special time. And the free photo collection, even if you're not interested in all of the other bits that I've talked about, just in terms of looking at what VE was like, it is really worthwhile. It really gives a sense of what it would have been like to live through those times and what your ancestors actually lived through. So you can see here on the left-hand side, this was a street party on the back streets of Manchester, and actually they didn't wait the official festivities on the 8th of May. They had their party on the 7th of May, and I'm sure they probably ran into the 8th of May as well. But as soon as they got word like victory was going to be declared, they started the party early in Manchester. And on the right-hand side was the 8th of May. So this day, 75 years ago, that is what Piccadilly Circus in London looked like. And I guess under the circumstances that we're living through at the moment, it's quite stark contrast, because London is obviously locked down like a lot of the world at the moment, and there's probably very few people in Piccadilly Circus at the moment. And the contrast to 75 years ago is it was absolutely thronged with people, with troops, with well-wishers, with locals, everybody out on the streets celebrating the end of the war in Europe. I also wanted to kind of bring a bit of notice to your own VE Day memories. So when we knew we were going to be looking at this at VE Day in focusing on VE Day and releasing this fantastic collection with all these great day photographs, we reached out to you, the Findmypast community. We actually asked you, were you a VE Day, or do you have family stories from VE Day that you'd like to share? And I just thought that we share some of these with you today. Lucy Newbury, she was saying she was a new ATS girl in London. She was amongst the crowds in Piccadilly, which you just saw. It was absolutely packed. Her elder brother was in the RAF, and he was still out in Java, so it would still be a while before he came home. She had saved so she could be at home with her best mate. So yeah, you'll have stories like that. Of course, we have to remember that there was still going on in the East, and there was troops, Allied troops were still fighting in the East. So although people were celebrating in Europe and in London and in Britain, there was a lot of families that were still remembering their family members that were out east. Shirley has said that she was only 4 years old at the time, but she does remember, I assume, Shirley, then it was probably one of your earliest memories if you're that young. But she does remember her front doors wide open, all of the house lights on, and she was amazed at seeing the grown-ups laughing, singing, dancing in the streets. She joined the Hokey Cokey and the Palais Glide. So that sounds like a good time was had at ball. While I'm running some of these memories, if you have your own, please do put comments, and I'll working in the comments in there as well, and I will run through them in a little while and maybe read out some of your own VE Day memories if you'd like them in there as well. On the right-hand side of the screen, then, we have a really striking image, which has, I think, been coloured a little bit, and this was provided to us by Girvan and District Great War Project, with the photo going to Tom McGowan on that one. And it was Girvan on VE Day, and they've managed to down and name some of those in the photo, but they're obviously this year their VE Day event had to be cancelled, which is, I guess, the case for a lot of people across the UK and Europe today, unfortunately. But I think it's really interesting that you've managed to track down and name people that are named in this photograph, because obviously that's a key thing that everyone would want to do. I guess the holy grail for a lot of family historians is actually finding a photograph of their ancestor. So if you see one of these kind of group shots from VE Day and your ancestor is in there, maybe as a child, it's really interesting if you're able to actually pinpoint that person and match them with somebody you know in their family. So again, another reason why it's worthwhile and go and have a look at the free Findmypast photo collection and seeing if any of the faces pop out from an area that your family were from. So that's a really nice photograph as well. Just going to look through some, pause briefly and just look through some of the comments that I've been leaving on the live stream here today. Let's have a look. Rosie has said, have a look at the Findmypast photo collection and they're brilliant, so she thinks she'll be browsing for some time. Rosie, I feel you on that one because I had the exact same time I started looking at it. You just get lost in there because there's so many unbelievable photographs to look at. Kathy has said her granddad was a special constable in World War II and he had to patrol 2 railway bridges in the village of Lincolnshire. How can I find out more about it? Kathy, as I mentioned, British service records for World War II are still with the Ministry of Defence at the moment, but you can request them if you're a direct relative, and he's your granddad, so you are. So, Ellie, if you pop the link to where you request service records from Defence in for Kathy to have a look at, that would be the best way to go about that. We've also got a blog on Findmypast that kind of details the best way about it on how to trace Second World War ancestors. Let's see what else we've seen. Linda found her father-in-law on a casualty list this morning. Hopefully the Allied collection was kind of gave you the gateway at Linda, so that's a great discovery. Obviously it's a discovery because it was a casualty list, but obviously you found out more about him, so that's a great thing. And Karen has said her grandfather was a fireman in the Second World War. And have we got any records? So, Karen, I would direct you, and Ellie, if you can pop this into the comments there, to our blog, which kind of lays out the records that we have on the Second World War. Just keep in mind, of course, that I've mentioned, a lot of them are still within the 100-year rule, and you have to be a direct descendant of the person if you want to actually get the record from the Ministry of Defence. But as being a fireman during the Second World War, I imagine he was pretty busy because of the and things like that. So it would have been a really important job time. Just moving on a little bit from some more the VE Day. I wanted to leave you with sorry, I do have more slides and more VE Day memories. For so many of them I forgot I had an extra slide. Okay, let's some more of these on screen. I once asked my dad if he celebrated VE Day because he fought in North Africa and Italy, and his response was, not really. They loaded us onto troops to go fight the Japanese. Yeah, so that is, as I mentioned, as celebratory as the mood was in the UK at the time, it's really important to remember a lot of families still had out there fighting in the East, and the war wasn't actually officially over until August of that year when the Japanese surrendered. We've got a message here, and I ventured to get my parents celebrating together as I was born 9 years later. Yeah, no doubt about it. There was obviously a lot of ways to celebrate VE Day, and I'm sure that did happen because celebrations happened. And yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of VE Day babies born. June was a tot in 1939. She remembers all the street put tables and cook from the little they had, because obviously we had rain going on at the time. There was laughter and singing for their loved ones to be home. So yeah, that's the kind of sense that you get from the photographs that you see in the collection as well. It's very much community spirit at its finest, I think. So yes, you're still waiting for your loved ones back home, but actually the relief, I imagine, for a lot of people back then would have been, unbelievable to imagine that there's no more fighting and your loved ones are probably safe. That I think would have been shared by a lot of people, and the community would have helped each other through over the last few years. The 5 plus that the war had been going on at that stage came together to really celebrate the fact that people there, and hopefully most of their members are still around as well. Nikki has said that her mother was 15 at the time. She was working at the Canadian Club in London, where she had 54 beds to make every day. How perplexed she was that the same ladies came up in different rooms on a such regular basis. Well, yeah, I guess the less said about that, the better, Nikki. But all these interesting tidbits and interesting stories from your past and from your ancestors that passed down as family stories. We actually also on the blog, and again, maybe if you can share this in the comments, Ellie, we have a first-hand account for the VE Day, and it's come from one of our Findmypast community members. Patricia Coleman shared us, and she inherited a letter from her father that her father had sent to her. He was an American soldier. He was in London on VE Day, and he realized that it was going to be VE Day. He didn't realize that victory would be declared. He just happened to be there on a few days' leave. And detail the different areas of London, what the crowds were like, what it was like at Buckingham Palace, Square, and Piccadilly Circus. So if you want a kind of a real kind of vivid insight to what it was like at the time in London, have a read of that blog. It's quite a moving story. And what I wanted to leave you with today, I know Alex usually tends to take a bit longer, but I just wanted to really focus in on VE Day, the free photo collection, and I just wanted to leave you with this. Obviously, we're all in lockdown at the moment, so I wanted to do a little lockdown challenge that's wartime related. So if we have a look at this is a ration. So obviously, our ancestors would have been going through hardship in terms of obviously the anxiety of war in general, the air raids that were happening, but also rationing. So, it would have trying to get your fair share for everyone. I think that was one of the slogans at the time, but everyone had to kind of make do with the rations that they had. So we went looking at historical newspapers to see what these were being suggested at the time. Newspapers are a great place to look for old recipes. So if you're locked down, which I presume most of us are for the weekend, why not have this? This is one of your ancestors' ration recipes, so you can give it a try. For jam pudding, so you need bread, you need jam, pint of milk, margarine, sugar, and an egg. So it's hopefully stuff that you might you're in your kitchen. Why not have a go and see what you can come up with and see what it would have been like, what ancestors would have been eating. That's a fun one to kind of end on it. So I'm going to leave it there for the day, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. Alex will be back this week. We also still have our of live streams happening next week as well. They'll be shared at the beginning of next week, so you'll be able to schedule. But stick with us here. We're headed through this strange time that we live in, and I guess VE Day is a real good time to reflect. Actually, yes, we are asked to sacrifice stuff. We are being asked to stay home. Ancestors did live through much harder times. So I will leave you on that note. Have a bank holiday weekend for everybody in the UK and around the world. Thank you very much.